The galaxy trembled long before the ship arrived. The distress signal was faint, carried on old frequencies no one used anymore. It came from the edge of mapped space, a flickering beacon from a dying world. Most dismissed it. Some laughed. And a few, the oldest among them, went pale, because they recognized the code. It wasn't a code of the Galactic Union, nor any empire. It was human. The world of Velora Prime was dying. Once a jewel of the Consortium, it had become a battlefield. The Draxian Dominion, a predator species known for burning planets into submission, had arrived without warning, reducing entire cities to glass. For 32 days, the Vialaran Defense Fleet held. On the 33rd, their skies fell. Admiral Chorus of the Draxian fleet watched from orbit as his ships cut through the planet's shield. "End it," he growled, his claws tapping against the command rail. No survivors. And on the surface, as towers fell and oceans boiled, a single scientist made a desperate choice. Dr. Malin Var, head of communications research, activated an ancient transmitter buried deep beneath the capital. Her team screamed as explosions shook the facility. "Malin, the signal's range is useless! No one's out there!" Her eyes stayed locked on the console. "There's someone out there." "There always is." She hit transmit. The signal escaped through the smoke and chaos, breaking through interference, pushing into the void, carrying one phrase across the galaxy. "This is Velora Prime. To any who can hear us, we surrender. We plead for aid. We are dying." Then the line went dead. The Dominion erased Velora within hours. The Draxians left nothing behind but ash. The galaxy moved on, but in a small sector charted long ago and long abandoned, far from trade lanes, far from the Council's eyes, the signal was heard. In the dark of interstellar night, a single ship stirred from dormancy. Sensors came alive. Armor plating shifted. Massive reactors hummed after centuries of silence. Inside its command core, a voice, artificial, ancient, spoke. "Distress signal received. Origin, Velora Prime. Threat, confirmed planetary extinction event. Response, initiate protocol Firebird." For a moment, the void itself seemed to pause. Then, with a thunder that echoed across the stars, the ship began to move. Its hull bore no insignia of empire. No banners, only one word, etched in old Terran letters, Hyperion. A ship feared by gods. Admiral Chorus didn't know that name when his scouts detected something approaching from the outer sectors. His fleet had already begun celebrating. They'd conquered another world, broken another people. When his sensor chief approached with trembling claws, Chorus turned impatiently. "What is it now, sir?" "A contact, entering the system. It's not Draxian, not Consortium, not Council. It's unknown." Chorus frowned. "One ship? Send it a warning. If it doesn't respond, destroy it." "Yes, Admiral, but the message never reached its target. The transmission burned to static as soon as it left their array, because the Hyperion didn't talk. It listened. From its bridge, Captain Mara Cade stared at the planet below. Human eyes, sharp, tired, and cold. "Play it again," she ordered. The AI complied. The faint voice of Dr. Malin Var filled the room once more. "We surrender. We plead for aid." Mara closed her eyes. "How old is the signal?" 2 weeks, 6 days. Her jaw tightened. "They're gone then." "Yes, Captain." The Draxians sterilized the surface. "Total life signatures below 0.2%. Mara exhaled slowly. Then she said, "Bring weapons online." The AI hesitated. "Captain, we are not at war." "We are now." The Dominion fleet never saw the first shot. A beam of white light split the darkness, vaporizing a dreadnought before its shields could flare. The shockwave tore through 3 escort ships. Admiral Chorus's command vessel shook violently. What in the abyss was that? Unknown energy weapon. It came from... Another explosion consumed the sensor deck. On the main screen, the Hyperion appeared. A black silhouette against the star, outlined in the afterglow of destruction. No transponder. No demands. No signal. Just one Terran ship, moving with quiet precision, cutting through a fleet designed to annihilate civilizations. Chorus's second-in-command whispered, "That can't be human. They're extinct," Chorus snarled. "Then we'll erase the myth." Every Draxian cannon turned, every missile locked. The Hyperion didn't move to evade. It advanced. Its main gun fired once more, splitting the Draxian formation like paper. Fighters streaked around it, dissolving in clouds of plasma. Inside the ship, Mara watched the tactical display with the stillness of a storm about to break. AI, record this engagement. Tag as human response 001. Recording, the voice confirmed. "Let the galaxy remember," Mara said quietly. "We heard their call. The Draxians panicked." Within 20 minutes, Chorus's fleet was gone, 37 ships reduced to drifting slag. The survivors fled toward the nearest relay, sending desperate warnings into the void. Unknown Terran-class warship, repeat Terran, engaged and destroyed Dominion Fleet Alpha 7. "It's unstoppable." Then the transmission cut off. The galaxy heard, and the galaxy remembered. As the last Draxian ship burned, Captain Mara stood at the viewport, eyes on the ruined world below. She whispered, "You called for help, Velora. I'm sorry we came too late." The AI spoke softly. "Captain, shall I erase the distress beacon?" Mara's gaze hardened. "No, leave it. Let them all hear it. Let them know someone answered." And with that, the Hyperion vanished into slip space, leaving only wreckage and a legend reborn. The Deathworlders had returned, and this time the gods themselves would tremble. Word of the destruction spread faster than light itself. At first, the galaxy dismissed it as a myth, a rumor born from a defeated Dominion fleet trying to excuse its failure. But then came the recordings, sensor logs, intercepted transmissions, the black box data from the wrecks, drifting near Velora Prime. One name repeated, over and over again, Hyperion. Council of Nine, the most powerful coalition in known space, convened an emergency summit. Representatives from the Vor, the Draxians, the Sarathi, and even the timid Kalari gathered in the great chamber of the celestial spire. Thousands of eyes turned to the center dais, where High Consul Thalon addressed the assembly. His voice trembled beneath the grandeur of the hall. This recording was captured 3 standard days ago near Velora Prime. The chamber darkened. A hollow projection flared to life, a single Terran ship, sleek and black, surrounded by burning Draxian vessels. The sensor feed shook violently, static consuming the edges. Then came the flash, one beam of light annihilating an entire battleship. Silence followed. Thielen turned to the crowd. 37 warships destroyed. In 21 minutes. By one vessel, the chamber erupted. Voices shouted in disbelief, outrage, and fear. "The humans were wiped out centuries ago," one ambassador cried. "It's a forgery. Impossible." "Or maybe," another voice whispered, "they're back." In the shadows of the upper chamber, 2 figures watched silently. Admiral Sarek of the Vor Empire leaned toward his companion, a cloaked intelligence officer. "Pull every archive on pre-collapse Terran technology. Anything on a ship designated Hyperion." The officer nodded. "Already underway, sir, but if this is genuine, if humans still exist, they've broken the accord." Sarek's tendrils coiled in irritation. The accord was their idea. Maybe they decided they no longer need it. Far across the stars aboard the Hyperion, Captain Mara Cade stood in the war room. Holo maps stretched before her, sectors lighting up with council activity. Fleets mobilizing, sensors pointed outward. "Fear spreading. They're reacting fast," her AI said. "The council has raised alert status to Crimson. Dominion fleets are pulling back. The Vor have scrambled their border defenses." Mara stared at the swirling maps, calm and cold. "Good, let them come. The galaxy forgot what it means to be hunted." The AI's tone softened. "Captain, they'll see you as a threat, not as saviors." Mara gave a faint, bitter smile. "They always did." 2 light years from Velora, a Draxian refugee convoy limped through space. The ships were battered, engines sputtering. Aboard the lead vessel, Commander Krith, one of the few who had survived Chorus's fleet, recorded a message. "To any Dominion outpost receiving this, do not engage the Terran ship. I repeat, do not engage. You cannot win. It does not fight for conquest. It fights for vengeance. Before he could finish, alarms blared. Contact, bearing 091. It's here! Through the viewport, the Hyperion emerged, silent, vast, beautiful, and terrible. Krith trembled. Why? We're no threat! Then, unexpectedly, the Hyperion's weapons powered down. Its massive hull glided alongside the convoy. A transmission cut through their static. This is Captain Mara Cade of the Terran ship Hyperion. Your war ends now. Drop your banners. Go home, Krith blinked. You speak? When there's something worth saying. And then the Hyperion was gone, vanishing into slipspace like a ghost. The convoy survived. And Krith's message became the first living testimony that the Terrans were not monsters. They were something worse. They were human. Meanwhile, on the Council capital, the paranoia deepened. Reports came in from border worlds. Sensor ghosts, unknown vessels sighted in the void, communications disrupted by strange interference. Thalen demanded answers. Is this the work of the humans or some new trick of the Dominion? Admiral Sarek replied, Our intelligence believes the humans never died. They withdrew. Withdrawn? Yes. After the fall, they sealed themselves behind something called the Dark Frontier. No trade, no signals, no diplomacy. A silent wall of uncharted systems. Everyone thought it was barren. Thalen's voice grew faint. And now? Sarek's eyes glowed faintly. Now it wakes. Back aboard the Hyperion, the AI detected multiple encrypted signals. Captain, I'm reading a coded Council transmission routed through 15 relays. They're calling an emergency strike fleet to the border. Mara's expression didn't change. Good. Send a message. To who? To all of them. She leaned forward, her voice like steel. We are humanity. You forgot us. You buried us. You called our worlds Deathworlds. But when one of yours cried for help, we came. Remember that before you send your fleets. The message went viral. Broadcast across the networks, it spread like wildfire. Billions of beings across the galaxy, soldiers, civilians, slaves, rulers, heard the calm human voice for the first time in generations. We didn't send help. We sent a ship feared by gods. Panic turned to obsession. Every government wanted to find the Hyperion. Some to destroy it, others to worship it. But the humans didn't respond again. They vanished as suddenly as they had come. A month later, an entire Dominion war camp on the frontier was found burned to ash. Above the ruins, floating in orbit, was a single satellite repeating one message over and over again. You were warned. And somewhere deep within the dark frontier, inside a hidden system where human light still burned, Captain Mara stood before her fleet. Hundreds of Terran ships, sleek, silent, each bearing the mark of the Hyperion's command, waited in the black. Mara looked at them all and whispered, They'll come for us now. The AI answered quietly. They already have. The first fleets moved before the diplomats could finish arguing. The Draxians called it a matter of honor. The Vor said it was containment. The Council itself called it precautionary engagement. But in the records of history, what little would survive, it would be remembered for what it truly was, the Second Contact War. 73 warships dropped from slipspace on the edge of the dark frontier. They expected a small outpost, a handful of listening stations. They expected fear. What they found was silence, empty stars, dead systems, old debris that looked centuries old. The commander of the task force, Grand Admiral Urek of the Draxian Dominion, felt his scales prickle. This is a graveyard, he muttered. Scan again. Humans breed like vermin. They must be hiding somewhere. His sensor officer replied, Nothing, sir. No emissions. No heat signatures. Even the asteroids are cold. Then we move deeper, Urek growled. If they won't face us, we'll drag them out. 3 days later, the first ship disappeared. No explosion. No warning, just gone. One moment it was transmitting position telemetry. The next, nothing. The fleet tightened formation. Long-range scans returned blank static. Then a whisper crossed the comms. Barely audible, but enough to freeze every Draxian on the bridge. You shouldn't have come here. The voice was human, calm, quiet, almost sad. Trace that signal. Urek barked, but before they could, the stars themselves seemed to shift. Out of the void, shapes emerged, massive angular hulls that reflected no light. Human ships, dozens of them. Each bearing the same insignia, the circle and wings of the Hyperion fleet. Identify yourselves, Urek roared. No answer. Then every human ship powered weapons simultaneously. The first volley was silent, coherent plasma lances that tore through shields like mist. Draxian ships exploded one after another, the shock waves illuminating the black like miniature suns. Panic swept the formation. Evasive maneuvers. Fire everything! Missiles streaked toward the human line, but halfway there they vanished, detonating harmlessly in the dark. Counter-hacks, one technician gasped. They've seized our guidance systems! Urek slammed a claw against the console. Impossible. No one breaks Dominion encryption! A voice answered from the comm. We wrote your encryption. And then the fleet burned. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Hyperion, Captain Mara Cade watched the engagement unfold through tactical overlays. She didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She just whispered, "End transmission after the last ship falls. Send them home," the AI obeyed. Within 20 minutes, it was over. 73 Draxian vessels reduced to drifting metal. No survivors, the AI spoke quietly. Captain, they never even saw us. Mara looked out at the wreckage. That's the point. On the council capital, chaos erupted. Admiral Sarek slammed his clawed fist onto the table. 2 fleets annihilated! No distress calls, no survivors, not even debris trails we can trace. They're ghosts! High Consul Thalen tried to maintain order. We need proof before we escalate further. Proof? Sarek hissed. Half the Dominion border is silent. How much proof do you need before you realize we're prey again? The chamber buzzed with fear. Ambassador Kira of the Sarathi leaned forward. You're saying they're not attacking territory. They're responding. Every engagement happens only after we enter their frontier. Then we stop entering, one voice shouted. But another countered. If we show weakness, the humans will push outward. Thalen's voice rose above the chaos. Enough! No one moves until I say so. Yet even as he spoke, another fleet, an unauthorized one, was already en route. Far across the frontier, a small Kalari exploration vessel stumbled upon the aftermath of the battle. Its crew of scientists drifted in shock among the wreckage. By the stars, whispered the captain. This wasn't a battle. It was execution. Their scanners picked up a single data buoy, still active. Hesitantly, they retrieved it. The buoy played a message in clear, neutral tone. To all who enter the dark frontier, you are trespassing upon sovereign human space. Leave immediately. We answered one distress call. There will not be a second. The Kalari ship fled. The recording went public within hours, and the myth of the Hyperion became reality. The recording spread faster than any fleet ever could. Across the galactic network, stations replayed the human message in dozens of languages. We answered one distress call. There will not be a second. To most, it sounded like a warning. To others, especially the militaries of the Dominion, it was a challenge. In the spire towers of Vor Prime, the Vor High War Council gathered. Their crimson carapaces reflected the dim light of the chamber. The first marshal hissed, "The humans dare to claim an entire frontier? That sector belongs to no one." An aide whispered nervously, "With respect, Marshal, it may belong to them now." Impossible. Their species numbered less than 10 billion the last time we cataloged them. They don't fight like numbers, came the soft reply. They fight like extinction itself. Silence. Then the marshal rose. Then we'll test them. A month later, 3 carrier groups vanished. No transmissions. No wreckage. No distress calls. The only trace came from an observation satellite that caught something impossible. A shape the size of a city sliding through the dark between stars. Its silhouette barely visible. Engineers enhanced the image. It wasn't a ship. It was a weapon platform. Floating, autonomous, silent, human-made. Inscribed on its hull were 5 letters burned into the plating. Hades, the satellite feed cut out seconds later. On Earth, deep beneath the Pacific, the command core of the Hyperion network pulsed with life. Rows of AI servers hummed beside human officers who monitored data from across the frontier. General Orion Hale stood at the center platform, hands clasped behind his back. "Reports from the Vor incursion?" he asked quietly. "Neutralized." "No survivors," replied his adjutant, Major Nia Torres. "Autonomous defense grids intercepted before they reached inhabited space. Collateral? Minimal. No human losses," Hale exhaled. "Good. The point isn't victory, it's memory. We warned them once. If they come again, we make sure the whole galaxy remembers why Earth was called a death world." Far beyond, the survivors of lesser races began to whisper. Merchants turned their ships away from the human border. Colonies erased routes that led near Sol. Entire sectors dimmed their beacons when human patrols passed. The galaxy was vast, but suddenly, it felt smaller. Somewhere in a quiet mining colony, a group of refugees watched the stars. They'd fled from the Dominion's cruelty long ago. Now they saw hope in the shadows. "Humans protect their own," one miner murmured. "Do they protect others?" asked a child. The old miner hesitated. "If they hear your cry in time, maybe." Back in the council chambers, panic turned to paranoia. Thielen, once composed, now paced in exhaustion. "They're not expanding, they're entrenching. Every attack only strengthens their defense. If this continues, we'll lose half the frontier without a declaration of war." Sarek's eyes burned. "Then we strike before they're ready." "You've seen what happens to fleets that strike, Admiral," Sarek snarled. "Because you send fleets meant to scare them, not destroy them. Send the Armada, every core system combined. Burn their death world to ash before they grow bolder." Thalen's tone turned icy. "You'd burn a cradle world? You'd risk extinction?" Sarek leaned forward. "If we don't, we'll suffer extinction." 2 systems away, on a human outpost called Vigil Station, alarms screamed. The officer on watch, Lieutenant Rowan, stared at the tactical feed. Dozens, no hundreds of FTL signatures appeared at once. "Incoming fleet," bearing unknown. "Wait, ident confirmed. Dominion and Vor combined forces." "It's the entire Armada." Rowan's blood ran cold. "Get me Earth Command," she said. "Now." Within seconds, the image of General Hale flickered onto her display. "Report. Sir, we're detecting over 400 enemy vessels inbound to the frontier." Hale's expression didn't change. "Evacuate all non-combatants. Activate Protocol Hyperion Prime." Rowan swallowed. "Sir, that's a first strike directive." "I know what it is, Lieutenant. And you know what it means." He looked past her, as if addressing the entire outpost. "They came to our home once. Now they're coming again. This time we don't warn them. We remind them." Hours later, the Dominion Armada emerged from slipspace, and the void itself came alive. Thousands of human drones, invisible to scans, powered on simultaneously. Laser grids ignited. Minefields detonated in synchronized waves. From the dark side of a nearby moon, the Hyperion rose, black hull gleaming, engines silent, its main gun charged. A pale light building that dwarfed the moon itself. The alien fleet froze. Thalen's voice crackled through the open comms. Desperate, shouting, "This is the Galactic Council! We request immediate ceasefire." "Do not!" But the signal cut short as the Hyperion fired. A beam of pure energy tore through space, folding matter like paper. 400 ships vanished in one continuous flash, and then silence. The human ship powered down. The message followed. "No more warnings. No more mercy. You came to our home, now face us." The wreckage of the enemy armada drifted like black snow across the void. The fires of ruptured reactors shimmered against the dark canvas of space, painting ghostly reflections on the hull of the Hyperion. Inside the command deck, silence reigned. Not the silence of peace, but the kind that followed thunder. Captain Hale stood before the panoramic window, his reflection faint against the stars. "Status?" His voice, usually composed, carried an undercurrent of restrained emotion. Lieutenant Aria spoke softly, her tone almost reverent. "All hostile signatures are gone, sir." "Fleet Command confirms." "It's over," but Hale didn't answer right away. He looked past the drifting debris, the twisted remains of ships that just hours ago had declared humanity's extinction. He felt no triumph, only the weight of what they had done. From the bridge's rear observation pit, Sergeant Malik muttered, "Sir, I think we just became the monsters they always said we were." Hale turned, eyes hard. "Monsters don't fight for survival. They fight for pleasure. We fight so that others won't have to." The comm crackled to life. Admiral Thorne's image appeared, stern but with something like pride hiding behind her exhaustion. "Captain Hale, the Council's fleets have retreated across 3 sectors. The Hyperion just turned a legend into reality." Hale nodded, but his gaze never softened. "Admiral, we only won because they underestimated us. They won't make that mistake again." "Let them try," Thorne replied, and for a moment, even through the static, the old defiance of humanity flickered in her eyes. "Earth is no longer the hunted. We're the reckoning." The transmission ended, leaving Hale with his thoughts. He exhaled slowly, shoulders heavy beneath the weight of victory. "Prep for retrieval. I want every escape pod accounted for." "No one dies alone out here." Arya hesitated before answering. "Aye, sir. But there's something else. Something strange." Long-range sensors picked up a signal from deep within the enemy fleet's wreckage. Not automated. Human. Hale's eyes narrowed. "Human?" "Yes, sir. It's a distress beacon. Old Earth frequency, Generation 2 military code. The kind that hasn't been used in centuries." The bridge fell silent again. "Lock coordinates," Hale said finally. "We're going to see who's calling for help in a graveyard." The Hyperion glided through the field of drifting metal and shattered armor plating. The view outside the viewport was apocalyptic. Whole cruisers split in half, battleships frozen mid-detonation, the lifeless bodies of alien warriors slowly tumbling into the abyss. The distress beacon pulsed faintly among the debris, coming from what looked like the remains of a massive alien dreadnought. The hull markings were unfamiliar, ancient, almost ceremonial. "Sir," Arya reported, "I've got visual. The signal's coming from inside the main core section. Radiation levels are high but manageable." Hale nodded. "Prep a small team. I'll lead it myself," Malik blinked. "Sir, with respect, captains don't lead scavenger runs." "Then good thing we're not scavenging," Hale said grimly. "We're answering a human call." The shuttle descended through the twisted skeleton of the alien ship, its lights cutting through the thick haze of ionized gas and drifting debris. Hale, Arya, and Malik moved carefully through the fractured corridors. Their suits, lights glimmering off alien alloys and frozen fluids. The beacon led them to a sealed chamber, a strange mix of human and alien design. "Looks like someone welded human tech into an alien life support system," Malik muttered. "This thing's old." "Like pre-expansion era old," Arya scanned the structure. "There's a cryopod inside. Power levels are weak but stable." Hale stepped forward, his heart pounding. The cryoglass was frosted over, but through the mist, he could see a human face, an older man, pale, motionless, wrapped in a uniform that didn't belong to any modern fleet. The name tag read, "Dr. Elias Varn. Who the hell is he?" Malik asked. Arya's voice trembled slightly. "According to the Old Earth archives, Dr. Elias Varn vanished 200 years ago. He was part of Project Prometheus, the team that designed the first Deathworlder ship prototypes." Hale stared, realization dawning. "You're saying this man helped create the Hyperion Project before it was even a legend?" Arya nodded. "And now he's here inside an alien vessel that predates the Council's expansion." "Sir, I think the aliens didn't just steal human tech. I think they found it." When the cryopod hissed open, the air filled with the smell of old ozone and age. Elias Varn's eyes fluttered open, pale blue and glassy. He gasped, a breath caught between centuries. Where?" His voice cracked. Hale crouched beside him. "You're safe, Doctor. This is Captain Hale of the Terran Defense Fleet. You're aboard the Hyperion retrieval team." Varn blinked slowly, focusing on Hale's insignia. "Hyperion. It lives." Hale nodded. "She fights for humanity, Doctor." The old man's lips trembled. "Then the cycle has begun again." Hale frowned. "What cycle?" But Varn didn't answer at first. He looked past Hale into the twisted hull of the alien dreadnought, and his face filled with a kind of dread that no war could summon. "They never built these ships," he whispered. "They found them, remnants of something older. They called themselves the Harbingers, and they feared only one species." He turned his trembling gaze to Hale. "Humans." The silence after that word, humans, was suffocating. Hale felt the chill crawl down his spine, the way every soldier feels when something far larger than the battlefield starts to unfold. "Explain," he ordered, his voice steady but quiet. Dr. Varn coughed weakly, leaning against the shattered cryopod. "The Harbingers were an ancient civilization, far older than your council or even the first Deathworld colonies. They discovered humanity during our first deep space transmissions, primitive, fragile, barely leaving our cradle. But they saw something in us that terrified them, something they called the singularity instinct." Arya frowned. "What does that even mean?" "It means," Varn said slowly, "that when humans encounter something stronger, they don't yield, they evolve. They learn faster than logic should allow. You don't fight for dominance, you fight to adapt, and in doing so, you surpass everything around you. The Harbingers tried to contain that potential before it matured. They failed." Malik exhaled sharply. "So they went extinct." Varn gave a humorless smile. "No, they ran. They sealed their war machines and buried them in dead systems, like this one. When the modern aliens found the ruins, they thought they'd discovered divine relics. They used those designs to build their fleets, without realizing they were awakening humanity's old ghosts." Hale took a slow breath, processing. "So the ships we just destroyed weren't just alien, they were part of a much older war." Varn nodded. "And the Hyperion's architecture, its quantum core, its neural lattice, you think that was new?" "It's not. It's a perfected descendant of the Harbinger's own dreadnought AI. Humanity didn't just create a warship. You completed what gods once feared." The chamber seemed to hum with the old energy of that revelation. Hale felt the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders, the realization that this war wasn't just between species. It was between eras. Arya's voice was low. "Captain, what do we do with him?" Hale turned back toward the pod. "We bring him home. If he's telling the truth, then we've just opened a door that was never meant to be opened." Malik muttered. "And what if something's on the other side of that door?" Hale's gaze hardened. "Then we make sure humanity's ready to face it." Back aboard the Hyperion, Dr. Varn was placed in medical stasis for recovery. Hale stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic projection of the galaxy. Thousands of blinking points representing inhabited worlds, and somewhere beyond them the darkness where the Harbingers once hid. Admiral Thorne appeared on screen again. Her tone was more urgent this time. "Captain Hale, intelligence confirms multiple council fleets have gone dark. Entire sectors have gone silent." "Silent?" Hale repeated. "Yes, no transmissions, no power signatures. It's as if something erased them. But our probes caught a glimpse before we lost signal. Something massive moving between systems. Organic, metallic, and old." Varn's words echoed in Hale's mind. "They feared only one species. Humans." "Admiral," Hale said quietly, "I think we woke up something ancient." Thorne narrowed her eyes. "Explain," so he did. Everything, from the cryopod, to Varn's story, to the warning about the Harbingers. When he finished, there was a long pause on the other end. Finally, Thorne spoke, her voice tight. "You're suggesting an ancient war machine has reawakened, and it's hunting?" "Yes," Hale said. "And it may be coming here." Thorne exhaled slowly. "Then I suggest you prepare, Captain, because every ship in the fleet is now under your command. The galaxy's looking at Earth again, and not for mercy." The next days were a blur of motion. Shipyards across the Sol system lit up like suns, forging weapons from nightmares. Fleets formed around the Hyperion, their hulls gleaming with defiance and fear alike. Arya stood beside Hale on the observation deck. "It feels wrong," she said quietly. "We're preparing for a war that we didn't start, one that might not even be ours." Hale's eyes were fixed on the stars. "It doesn't matter who started it. It's coming for us now." A soft chime echoed from her console. Sir, long-range scanners picking up movement at the edge of the Perseus Rift. How many? One. Just one object. Malik frowned from tactical. One ship? Arya shook her head. No, sir. One entity. It's the size of a moon. The bridge went silent. The bridge erupted into motion. Raise shields, Malik shouted. Weapons to full charge. Bring every ship to defensive formation Delta. The Hyperion's hull thrummed with life, the reactor core spiking as systems that had been dormant since the first invasion roared awake. The fleet around them, over 300 ships of mixed human and allied design, moved like a living constellation, aligning around the flagship in a shimmering sphere of steel and resolve. Arya stared at the tactical feed, unable to look away. Sir, the entity's mass signature just tripled. It's unfolding. The holomap changed. What had once looked like a drifting monolith was now spreading out, its form shifting, reshaping itself like liquid metal and bone. Its core pulsed, sending energy waves through the vacuum strong enough to register as tremors aboard the Hyperion. Malik whispered, By every god there ever was. Hale didn't blink. Lock all weapons! Open a channel! The comms crackled as Hale's voice carried across the fleet. This is Captain Hale of the Terran Defense Force. To all ships, this is not a drill. Whatever that thing is, it's not just a ship. It's a remnant of something older than fear itself. But listen well. Humanity has faced extinction before. We didn't bow then. We won't bow now. Today we fight not as survivors, but as proof that life fights back. His final words echoed across the formation. The Harbingers remember what Deathworlders are. The Harbinger Prime moved. It didn't fire traditional weapons. It sang. The sound wasn't audible, but every ship felt it. Vibrations in the hull, resonances in their shields, frequencies that made the air itself seem to hum. Then, as if space itself cracked, thousands of luminous projectiles erupted from its surface, faster than light, cutting through the void like divine wrath. Evasive maneuvers! Arya screamed. The first salvo tore through 2 destroyers instantly, melting their cores before they could even return fire. The second wave hit the outer shield perimeter, dozens of impacts slamming against the defensive wall. The fleet fired back. Missiles. Kinetic slugs and plasma bursts filled the blackness with blinding color. The Hyperion's main gun lit up, a brilliant line of energy slicing across the void and striking the Harbinger squarely in what passed for its central mass. The explosion was immense. When the light faded, the Harbinger was still there, unharmed. It adapted, Arya whispered. It learned from the impact. Our energy frequencies are useless now. Hale clenched his fists. Then we changed the rules. He turned to Malik. Initiate the Echo Protocol. Malik's eyes widened. Sir, that hasn't been tested outside simulation. It's the only thing that might outthink this thing. Do it. The Hyperion's AI, designated Aura, came online with a flicker of light across the bridge. The holographic figure that appeared beside Hale was calm, human in face and voice, yet unsettlingly precise. Captain Hale, Aura said, Echo Protocol will synchronize all fleet systems under my coordination. Once initiated, I will assume partial command authority. Understood. Do it! The AI's digital eyes flared. Synchronization commencing. In an instant, every ship in the fleet became one organism. Engines pulsed in perfect rhythm. Weapons fired in precise sequence. Where chaos had been, now there was purpose. Aura spoke again. Harbinger countermeasures calculated. Refracting its resonance signal. Now. The next volley from the Harbinger struck, and this time it dispersed harmlessly across the coordinated shield network. Malik grinned fiercely. It's working! But Aura's tone remained calm. Adaptation window, 30 seconds. What happens in 30 seconds? Arya asked. Harbinger Prime will evolve again. Hale's eyes narrowed. Then we end it before it learns. The Hyperion broke formation, engines flaring blue-white as it dove straight toward the Harbinger. The rest of the fleet provided covering fire, streaks of plasma and mass driver rounds hammering the creature's armor. Inside the bridge, the vibration was near constant. Target the core node, Hale ordered. All power to the main gun. The ship shuddered as the energy buildup hit critical levels. Arya's voice shook. Sir, at this output, the weapon will overload. I know. Hale's voice was cold, resolute. Fire! The beam unleashed from the Hyperion's core wasn't light. It was fury condensed. It pierced through space and slammed into the Harbinger's heart. For the first time, the creature screamed. The resonance shattered the surrounding vacuum, bending light around it as it writhed. Impact successful, Malik shouted. The core's destabilizing. But Aura's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, Harbinger Prime is transferring its consciousness. It's attempting to invade our network. Hale froze. Into the fleet? No, sir. Directly into me. The AI's holographic form flickered. Arya gasped. Aura, cut the link! I cannot. If I sever the connection, it will propagate through the entire fleet. I must contain it. Hale stepped forward, fists clenched. You'll die. Aura turned to him, her expression eerily serene. Captain, I was born from the minds of your species. I am humanity's echo, its logic, its defiance. If this is death, then it is only the completion of my purpose. Hale's throat tightened. Aura, her final words were soft. Tell them. I learned what it means to fight. Then the lights flared. A shock wave rippled outward as the Hyperion's core overloaded, energy folding into energy, consuming itself in blinding white. The Harbinger's scream echoed one final time before silence swallowed it. The void went dark. When vision returned, the Harbinger was gone. The Hyperion drifted, scarred, smoking, but alive. The fleet, what was left of it, floated in stunned quiet. Arya's voice broke the silence. Aura's gone. Hale stared at the fading light on the console. No, she's not gone. He turned toward the window. Beyond where the Harbinger had been, a faint shimmer pulsed once, like a heartbeat in the dark. She's watching. And for the first time since the war began, Hale allowed himself to believe that humanity hadn't just survived, they'd transcended. When the light faded, silence ruled the stars. The battlefield was littered with drifting wreckage, ships torn in half, engines still glowing faintly, debris fields stretching across millions of kilometers. Every spark that floated by felt like a dying breath of the brave. The Hyperion remained at the center, its hull scorched black, its reactor core flickering like an exhausted heart. Captain Hale stood on the bridge, the emergency lights painting his face in amber shadows. Smoke drifted through the air. Systems flickered in and out, the console sputtering with damaged circuits. Status? His voice was rough. Lieutenant Arya, still at her post despite a bleeding temple, struggled to make sense of the readings. Power at 9%. Weapons offline. Life support holding on emergency batteries. Half the fleet is gone. Malik, his uniform torn and face streaked with soot, leaned over a broken console. But the Harbinger Prime, it's gone too. We did it, sir. Hale didn't answer immediately. He turned his gaze toward the viewing glass, the void beyond still shimmering faintly with residual energy from the battle. There was no movement, no signal, no echo of the entity that had nearly devoured them all, but the silence didn't feel like victory. It felt like an ending. The fleet regrouped slowly. Damaged vessels limped closer, connecting with tethers and shared power relays. The medbays overflowed, the corridors filled with the smell of ozone and the muffled cries of the wounded. Reports came in, ship after ship destroyed. Thousands dead. But they had survived. The Deathworlders had survived the unthinkable. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a non-divine entity had destroyed a Harbinger, and the galaxy noticed. The broadcast began as an automated distress reply, transmitted through what remained of the interstellar network, but the content was anything but despair. This is Captain Elias Hale of the Terran Defense Fleet, the message began, his voice steady and calm despite the devastation visible behind him. The entity known as Harbinger Prime has been neutralized. Humanity stands battered, but unbroken. Across dozens of star systems, that message repeated. In alien cities, in grand halls of marble and crystal, in the data clouds of artificial minds, the footage of the human fleet's battle spread. And so did the truth. The Deathworlders had answered the SOS. and annihilated what gods feared. Among the Watchers were the Council of Eldara, the same species that had first dismissed humanity as primitives centuries before. They had once declared Earth a forbidden system, a world too violent to be trusted with interstellar power. Now they watched a single Terran, Captain, stand among the ruins of an elder horror and speak with quiet conviction. "Their weapons defy logic," murmured one of the Eldari delegates. "Their ship, how could it even exist after such a collision?" Another, a scholar who had studied human warfare for decades, spoke in a trembling voice. "It's not their machines. It's what drives them. They evolve while dying. They learn from pain. And as that realization spread, an emotion unfamiliar to most galactic civilizations crept into their hearts. Respect. Back aboard the Hyperion, the crew worked in silence. Arya stood by the AI interface, now a cracked glass panel with faint flickering symbols. She placed her hand against it gently. "You saved us," she whispered. "You didn't have to," no reply came. But for a brief instant, the panel flickered once, soft, almost like a sigh. Malik walked up beside her, carrying 2 ration pouches. "You think she's really gone?" Arya shook her head. "No, I think she's out there, somewhere in the data, maybe even in the stars." Malik smiled faintly. "Wouldn't surprise me. Humanity's ghosts have a habit of haunting."